Hello everyone, my name is Turner Lee, and today we are going to complete a science investigation called Identifying Mystery Materials by Their Properties. This lesson aligns with the NGSS Performance Expectations 5-PS1-3, which asks the students, you guys, to make observations and measurements to identify materials based on their properties. Today, we'll act just like scientists by observing different materials, collecting evidence, and using the evidence we collect to determine what each object is made of. Throughout the lesson, we'll follow the 5E instructional model: engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. So, let's begin with our guiding question. Can scientists identify an unknown material without knowing what it is? This happens all the time in the real world. Scientists, engineers, and even crime scene investigators like police officers can identify materials by carefully observing their properties instead of guessing. Today, we'll investigate several everyday objects. We'll look at whether they're magnetic, whether they float or sink, and whether they are hard, soft, flexible, or rigid. During this investigation, it is very important to remember these scientific words. It's a vocabulary words, which is property, which is a characteristic of a material; observation, which is information we gather using our senses; measurement, which is data collected with tools or numbers; magnetism, which is the ability to attract a magnet or be attracted by a magnet; and solubility, which describes how well something dissolves in water. Now, it's time to explore. First, I tested each object with a magnet to see whether it was magnetic. Then, I placed each object into water to observe whether it floated or sank. Finally, I observed whether each material was hard or soft and whether it could bend easily. As I tested each object, I recorded my observations in a data table. Scientists always collect evidence before making conclusions. The metal spoon was attracted to the magnet, and it also sank in the water. The plastic spoon floated, but was not magnetic. The wooden block also floated, but it was rigid instead of flexible. And you can see the rubber ball floated, and it was soft and flexible. So recording observations carefully helps scientists identify materials accurately. You are definitely able to pause and review what is on the screen now. But right now it's time to explain our results. Each material had its own unique combination of properties. The metal spoon was easy to identify because it was magnetic and sank. Plastic and wood both floated, but they could still be distinguished by their flexibility and their texture. The rubber ball, on the other hand, was soft and flexible, making it different from every other object. This investigation shows why scientists use more than one property when identifying materials. If we only looked at whether something floated, we might incorrectly think plastic and wood were the same material. Instead, scientists compare several observations before making conclusions. These observations provide evidence that helps us accurately identify materials. So, it's your turn. So, a little reflection that I had before we, to finish our investigation, we're going to evaluate what we learned. One challenge that I faced was that some materials shared similar properties, so I had to use several observations before identifying each one correctly. Today we discovered that materials can be identified by observing and measuring their properties. We also learned that scientists need multiple pieces of evidence before reaching a conclusion. Now here's your real world challenge. Imagine you're designing a new Imagine a new classroom and the things inside of it. Which materials would you choose for certain items? Like, what's the best material for a chair? I want you to write down wood, metal, plastic, and why. And also, I want you to find 5 more items and do the exact same thing. Lastly, all of these connect to other curriculars. Like math, we can create a graph just like math. ELA is the paragraph we wrote. And engineering is designing a safe and new classroom using what we know. Thank you.